I've written how many books now? 5 or 6, and I should have written 26. So what happened to those other 20 books? That's the mystery. The magic is the 6, and the mystery is the 20 that are missing. I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I had the skills, but I didn't put them to work. So we all have a bit of that. But then the things we do that sort of dramatically change our life, that's the magic. That's the power.
Yeah.
Part of it is the law of averages. When I started out lecturing, I wondered why I couldn't get everybody to do the 100%. Then I found out that some people are going to let little things cheat them out of doing better things. But maybe that'll change.
Yeah.
A week from now, somebody wakes up and has an experience like I did with the Girl Scout, and everything changes. So the door usually is always open, unless somebody totally resists the idea of self-improvement. But I think there's enough experiences along the way to prod us and push us a little bit, or we hear a testimonial, or we read a book,
Right.
or somebody buys us a ticket and we go to a seminar, and we're never the same again. You share an idea with someone, 2 people, one of them says, I see it, and the other one says, it isn't clear to me. You say, why not? It's perfectly clear when you shared it. How come you don't feel like I feel? So you have to allow for that. And then we have to allow for it happening even in our own experience, like me with the missing books. I should have and I didn't. I let it go and I should have picked it up. So I guess the key is to do the best we can. And the key is to keep learning from every experience possible. Our own personal experiences, or from someone else's experiences, by sermon, the lyrics of a song, a personal testimonial someone gives you sitting at Denny's for a Tuesday morning breakfast, and something clicks and something happens. You never know. Somewhere along the way, by what we hear and what we experience, we try to make ourselves better qualified for the next move up.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is to keep moving up, keep growing, keep developing, see what all you can do with your life. Why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? I'm 25 years old. He said, this is America, land of opportunity. Why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? And then he said, for what it will make of you to achieve it. And I thought, wow, that's a whole different philosophy. Set a goal to become a millionaire for the person you have to become in order to be worth $1 million. Then he said, once you've become a millionaire, you can give the money away, because what's important is not what you got, but the person you became. And I got the message. And that's where I started hearing those phrases from him. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Bringing value to the marketplace is how you get paid. The more value you bring to the marketplace, the better your pay. And also you get paid for what you become: a leader, an entrepreneur, a manager, somebody who has the ability to inspire other people. I started out with developing a list of skills I didn't have. So the first thing, and I started part-time, sales adventure on how to get customers. It was in health and nutrition, and I believed in the product, and I was taught, here's how you get a customer. And then here's how you ask them, who do they know that wants to be healthier? Then expand your business from there. So that was the first extra skill I learned from just the regular farm skills that started to change my life. So this is part of the personal development, learning that extra skill. In my seminars, I now teach in the 21st century, you need more than one skill. One is for economic safety. Here's a guy that's worked for General Motors. They just, closed a couple of plants and laid off, 25,000 people. This guy has been there, let's say, for 15 years. Now he's laid off, and he tells us he's already having economic difficulty. And the reason is, Chris, he only had one skill. Over the last 3 or 4 years, if he would have taken accounting 2 nights a week or something, so that when this crisis occurred, he would have something to fall back on. So in my seminars, I teach a whole list of skills I learned by the time I was 31 that not only made me rich, but really broadened the whole scope of my ability to be an entrepreneur, affect other people's lives. And then I got into, of course, teaching and training. But that's part of it. I learned sales. I learned to find good people. I learned to get people to work together. Interesting phrase in the Bible says, if 2 or 3 agree on a common purpose, nothing's impossible. Get inspired and inspire a couple of people to go with you. You could do some pretty extraordinary things. I learned how to do that. Then I learned recognition and rewarding people for steps of progress. You may work for a company and they reward people for the big steps. I've learned to reward people for little small steps of progress. Anything you can think of to give them a reward for making some progress. Be so busy giving other people recognition, you really don't need it for yourself. Now you've arrived at a very good place. Your greatest happiness is other people getting rewards, not necessarily yourself. But then Zig comes back with the old philosophy that's so true. If you help enough people get what they want, from either money to recognition or success, you can have everything you want. If you help enough people get what they want. But that's another skill. Then I think the ultimate skill is the skill of communication. And I divided that one into 3 parts. One is training, right? Showing somebody how to do the job. Next is teaching. And I simply use the 2 words for a purpose. Teaching life skills. Because one of the things that helped me really revolutionize my life, age 25, was learning how to set goals. Decide what you want, write it down, start checking them off. Where do you want to go? Make that list. What do you want for your family? Make that list. I started doing all that. That's called teaching life skills. So if you combine job skills with life skills, your chances now really start to multiply. Then the ultimate in communication is learning to inspire. Helping somebody to see themselves better than they are, transporting them into the future. Say, Mary, here's who you could become. With just a few changes, I promise you, you'll never be the same again. Here's the kind of person you could become. Confident, strong, able to cope with circumstances and changes. You could be that person. Here's the person you could become. We try every means possible, right, especially for our children, to expose them ideas that we know we translate best we can, or from church, or hopefully from school, from the neighborhood, from the business community where they might get a job and go to work. We just hope and pray that they will be constantly exposed to things that'll cause them to think, change, refine habits, develop skills, have personal satisfaction of the success they want. We hope that happens. But it's going to come from a variety of sources, not just one. It's like mentoring. I happened to find somebody who was the business employer, business partner that I worked with, as well as being a mentor. But sometimes, somebody mentors you in good health. Somebody else mentors you in spiritual matters. Someone else mentors you in family relations. And someone else mentors you in business and developing skills. I said to myself, I must find something. And sure enough, when you have that determination, it seems like things start, happening and coming your way. At least the odds are better. Everything's a matter of odds. But if you do certain things, I think you can increase your odds that better things will happen for you. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living, which is fine. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune, which is super fine. How to refine things spiritually as well as how to refine things economically and personally. And we can all use a little coaching, or whether it's in a seminar setting, or whether it's church or a Sunday school class, wherever it is, or ideas are being shared. There's always a chance to pick up something that you hadn't quite thought about before. One of the greatest experiences, and you heard me say before, is when someone puts your name in their testimonial. Here's the person that found me. Here's the person that got me started. Here's the person that wouldn't let me quit. Gave me more reasons for staying than for leaving. Here's the person who believed in me until I could believe in myself. And then they mention your name. That's big time stuff. You can't buy it with money. Traveling to other countries, people are basically the same. They've got families and they want to do well, and they want the next generation to be better off than they are. People have hopes and dreams, want to know how they can achieve success. What could I do? It seems like I've been stuck for 4 or 5 years. What could I do to make a difference? Everybody wants to know. And then they want to be fulfilled. People want to, have satisfaction, whether it's spiritually, socially, personally. Satisfaction of personal development. I'm better than I used to be. And I think if I keep working hard, I stand an excellent chance of being better in the future than I've been in the past. He tell you, here's how you can dramatically change your life from pennies to fortune. And some say, yes, that's great, I will. And some say, I'm not sure that's for me. And I have to learn to accept that. Here's a 12-year-old. Couldn't he search the neighborhood? Doesn't have to be 12. 7 or 8. 8 years old, let's say, this little kid, and he searches the neighborhood, finds a little broken wagon, and pays $1 for it, and brings it home, fixes it up, paints it until it shines, straightens out the wheels until they're true, takes it back to the neighborhood and sells it for $5. Makes a $4 profit. Could that be possible? And everybody says, well, yes, it could be possible. And all he would have to have is the idea. So I'm teaching kids how to have 2 bicycles, one to ride and one to rent. You don't have to be General Motors to make a profit. So just a bit of ingenuity, from the lemonade stand to whatever. Those are just all examples of capitalism at work, where you make something and sell it, or you buy something and sell it. Then teaching kids a little bit about money management. Don't spend more than 70 cents out of every dollar. And then 10 cents for charity or church. Another 10 cents for active capital, like find a broken wagon, pay $1 for it, fix it, sell it for $5. That's active capital. And then last 10% is passive capital. Let someone else use your money. Invest it and let them pay you interest or whatever. So a good program for kids to learn 70, 10, 10, and 10. And if you do that over a reasonable period of time, you'll become financially independent. So the way you teach it is, could a child buy a bottle of soap for $2 and sell it for $3? The answer is yes. Johnny goes next door and says, Mrs. Brown, Mama uses this soap. It's really good. It's only $3. And Mrs. Brown says, Johnny, I've really got plenty of soap. And he says, you better let me come in and check. Kids don't have to go to classes, right? So they don't need sales training. So she says, well, okay. Probably I do. Here's $3. And so she buys this bottle of soap that Johnny bought for $2. She pays him $3. Now we say to John, here's what you must learn to do with the $3. And we just ask obvious questions. What if you took this $3 now that you just collected from Mrs. Brown and went and spent it all? He says, well, no, you can't do that because then you'd be out of business. The money they got in their hand, if something comes up, why not spend it? Say, no, you'd be out of business. You got to save at least $2 back so you can go and buy another one. So then kids learning to employ other kids. Johnny mows Mrs. Brown's lawn. She pays $5. The idea occurs to him, why couldn't I get Pete to mow Mrs. Brown's lawn, collect the $5, and give him $1 for mowing the lawn, and I keep the $3 for getting the business? He says, good idea. Mrs. Brown gets her lawn mowed. Pete gets a couple of dollars. Johnny makes $3 for getting the job. And he said, if you do a good job, Pete, I'll have another person, I'll have another place to mow a lawn. And first thing you know, it doesn't have to be huge amounts, just so you understand what capital is all about. Capital is any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace, hoping to make a profit. That's capitalism in one sentence. And it can be capital money or capital time. Time you set aside to be invested. That the time and the money you set aside to be invested is like seed corn. If a farmer has seed corn that he's going to plant, hoping for a harvest come harvest time, would he eat it, this seed corn? The answer is no. Would he feed it to his family? And the answer is no, of course not. Would he give it away and be generous? They say, well, no, you can't be generous with your seed corn. He would protect it by all means, because it's the only way it can multiply and grow into more than what it is. And that's what capitalism is all about, a chance for something to grow and multiply into more than what it is. But you've got to protect it. The same is true with your time. Let's say you set aside a certain amount of time every week to invest in this enterprise that's going to bring value to the marketplace, hoping to make a profit. You can't let anybody have that time, and you have to learn the value of capital time. It's so easy to let somebody steal your time that should be invested. We just don't set it up and, stick to it.
Yeah.
It's just like wasting time on a lot of things. Years and years ago, I asked a young man one time, because I knew he watched television a lot. I said, how much did your television cost? And he said, $400. And I said, well, you really miscalculated. He said, no, it cost $400. I said, that's to buy it. How much do you think it costs to watch it? Because I knew he had some skills that he really wasn't employing and was letting it all slide. I said, in my personal opinion, because the average American now watches television 6-7 hours a day. I said, in my personal opinion, this television is costing you about $40,000 a year, not to own it, but to watch it. And I said, that's too much to pay.
Right.